there's something about having your success being completely up to you. If you come to a job ready to be a sponge and absorb things and learn different things and know how you learn best, you're going to excel at a job really well because you're present, but you're also like, showing up as your best self and really hoping to get the most out of it. I think if you had told me back in 2020 that I was working in tech, I'd tell you were crazy.
How did you transition from healthcare to tech in 7 months? Welcome back to the 5 Minute Career Hack Podcast. I'm your host, Jamila Brown, back with another interview that's going to help you pivot in your career, confidence, and compensation. I have an incredible guest with you here today that's going to be talking about something that some of you may want to do and some of you might need to be encouraged around. Her name is Annalise Gaffney. Welcome to the show, Annalise. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks, Jamila. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's get right to it. No fluff, all action. How did you transition from healthcare to tech in 7 months? That's right, 7 months. That's crazy to me. How did you do that?
Yeah, by being delusionally optimistic, not taking no for an answer, and coming from a place of really wanting more out of my life and kind of putting my head down and getting right to it.
So I know there was more to it than that, right? So let's
That's
back
the
up.
secret
Let's
sauce.
back up a step. Let's back up a step. Tell us about what you did in healthcare first.
Yeah. I was a clinical speech pathologist, so I worked in nursing homes and hospitals, mostly with the geriatric population, so those older folks. Healthcare is a wide spectrum, but I mostly focused on stroke patients, anyone that had like head and neck cancer, helping them to swallow again and helping them regain speech again.
Right. So, and how long did you do that for?
I did that for about 2 years, ish, and I worked in a nursing home in the Bronx. Shout out up
Okay.
there, it's great. But I worked there as the lead speech pathologist at the ripe age of 24
Mm.
during the pandemic, and then yeah, I'm sure we'll get into more details of it. But
Yeah, yeah. So, and what type of degree is it? Is it exactly speech pathology that you got to do what you did in healthcare?
yep, so I got a bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders, and then I got a master's degree with speech pathology as the
Love it.
main study. So.
And you really, I assume you really wanted to get into speech pathology if you went and got the master's after the undergrad, right? That was no doubt.
Yeah, yeah, I've recently, since kind of like zooming back out of it, I feel like there's a lot that happens with us, when we graduate college after being students our whole life that just like doesn't really want to move on to the real world and looks towards something to be like, I'm still a student for a few more years, like I got this. So I think I that played a part of it, just kind of being a little like
Mm.
scared of, the job market, but also I loved Grey's Anatomy growing up, I'm not gonna lie, and I
Me
wanted
too.
to be. Right. I wanted to like be Meredith Grey in the hospital. Like I really wanted that like rush and purposeful career, but didn't want to be a doctor. I'm not good at chemistry, not good at math, not the vibe. So I kind of just did a quick Google search, like what are some healthcare oriented jobs that I could do in a hospital that is not necessitating going to med school. And speech pathology is one of them. And I could talk to a wall. So it seemed like the right fit.
Right. So shout out to Ellen Pompey who inspired us all
Yes.
during
Yeah.
that period of time. And your hair is giving 2002-ish. It's giving 2002 Meredith Grey, right? So
Awesome.
love
Thank
that.
you.
Love that.
I'll
So
take it.
right. So with that being said, I think that's such an interesting take once you got away from that exact moment in time when you made that decision to get the master's degree. And I know there's people listening that I literally just coached someone on this that's just finishing up their undergraduate and was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get my master's," and going through that. So I'm definitely going to make sure she listens to this and understands some of the different perspectives before making that final decision. And not to say that I'm anti-masters. I have one too, but at the same time, I think it was just a band-aid or a pacifier, if you will, to avoid something else, right?
Yeah,
I think
totally.
that's
I
really
agree.
what it was. And I think the something else, if I could encapsulate it broadly, is the fear of the unknown, right?
Totally. And just being like an adult in the world, I think it's, a lot of media and the news is like the job market's tanking, the economy is so bad, like layoffs are happening all the time. And I think when you've been a student for what, 22 years of your life, you're kind of like, wait, I know how to do this. I'm pretty good at it. And it kind of gives you a safe landing pad, if you will, to not have to like lurch into what you just said, the unknown, but also like the unknown that seems pretty scary if you turn on the news. So
Correct, correct. And yes, I'm very good at being a student. I think everybody can, add that to their list
yeah,
of things that
yeah,
they've done in their lifetime. Yeah, I did 22 years as a student.
yeah,
Yeah, put that
pretty
on my
good.
resume. I'm good.
Yeah,
Check. I'm an
yeah.
expert. It's ultimately why I believe I love learning so much as well. So
Hmm.
that's great insight. It's got me thinking as well. So let's get back into the moment. You decide. How did you decide to leave healthcare? What happened in that moment?
So as I mentioned, I was the only SLP, that's the abbreviated term for speech language pathologist, in a nursing home in the Bronx during the heart of 2020. We lost about, I think, 30 patients in 18 days was the number to COVID. Very gruesome, very traumatic. Again, this is like my first job in the real world, so I feel like the trauma of it didn't really settle until a few months after. I was having horrible nightmares,
Mm,
and just kind of this like recurring nightmare of like honestly burning down the nursing home I was working in, and then waking up on a beach in Hawaii, which was like very strange. I'd never been to Hawaii before, but that recurring vision really sent me onto this tailspin of like, I think I need to go somewhere like Hawaii to heal. Like I had a lot of things to work through because of COVID. So I put my feelers out there, I think in like September of 2020 for
mhm.
a travel speech pathology position, hoping that if I worked somewhere else, I would, feel reignited by the field. I got one in like 2 weeks. I totally manifested that. I believe that is so real. On the island of Kauai, it's where they filmed Jurassic Park. It's beautiful.
Nice.
Um, and it was a very rural setting. I had awesome coworkers. My job was like pretty easy. There was not a lot of COVID there, but I was so depressed. Every day I would leave work and just be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like what I'm teaching people how to swallow. Like, do they even need this? Like, it was just this kind of like nagging voice in my head of like this something does not feel enough and something needs to change. And I was living on an island. It was sunny every day. I'm like, I shouldn't be crying leaving work. And I did a lot of work internally and kind of looked inward and been like, what can I change? Like, what are the variables that I can control here? And it felt like my career was the most obvious.
Mm.
I took care of myself. I ate well. I had pretty strong relationships. And yeah, it was kind of in that moment where I was like, I need to shift, and it's time to do something that would feed my fire a little bit more.
So would you describe that moment as a specific day, or was it just a series of days that kind of culminated into this stop moment?
I would say it was a series of days. Not to sound so dramatic, but I think like being in a hospital setting, you're meant to feel like there's no windows. The lights are really intense. Like it just felt very like the walls were almost caving in on me all the time when I was there. And I feel like that combined with just like, my time on the island was up. I was there for 6 months. They wanted me to stay full time. And I remember looking at the offer letter they gave me to be like a full-time SLP at this awesome hospital with all my friends. And I was like, you couldn't pay me enough money
Mm.
to continue showing up in scrubs, um, in a setting that has hurt my, like, safety in the workplace so intensely. So it was kind of more, I guess it was like a culmination of that and then the offer letter of like, "Hey, stay in this forever," that I was like, I can't."
That is so interesting because it was a very similar moment to me, not healthcare and tech, obviously, which we'll
Mhm.
talk about here in a second, but it was the minute I got an offer letter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it was like I had asked for the moon, the stars, and the sun.
Yeah.
And it was all written out here for me to take, and I was just like, no, I'm done.
Yeah, it's this like I don't know if you felt the same thing, but it felt like this like the wrong sides of the battery going together. It was like you wanted this magnet so intensely, and then it's like, ooh, wait, I don't know about this
No,
anymore.
pretty
Yeah,
much complete repellent. It was
yeah,
definitely like that was the moment though, is when it was all right in front of me to just have it and keep doing. And I was just like, no, I'm good.
yeah,
So that's so interesting that it was, the culmination of moments, but then when you got the offer letter, because that almost kind of, I'm not going to say nail in the coffin, but it almost cements the next whatever
yeah,
year, 2, 5, whatever, maybe even the next 20 for you
yeah.
when you make that decision. So I think that's so interesting that that was the point for you as well as for myself. So let's move forward to tech and what you're doing now, and how did you like what what was the process to either look for the job, the industry, or what led to this transition specifically? Because I
Yeah,
know people are listening to understand, like, I don't want to be in healthcare anymore potentially, or I'm looking for something in tech. What do I do?
yeah. It's a great question. I think if you had told me back in 2020 that I was working in tech, I'd tell you you were crazy. Um,
Right.
One of my psych ward patients, but yeah, it's been a
Right.
journey. There's definitely some steps that happened. I got back, so I left Hawaii. I came back to the mainland. I did actually a summer house with my friends in Montauk in the Hamptons, which was so fun. Yeah,
Hey,
very nice.
no
Very
big
blessed to
deal.
do
I went
that.
from Hawaii to the Hamptons. Okay.
Yeah. I like being by water, if you couldn't tell.
Right.
But when I was like preparing to come back, I was kind of like, how am I going to make a living when I'm living in this house with my friends? I didn't have an apartment in the city anymore. I didn't really want to live with my parents full time back in Connecticut. So I was kind of like, what can I do in the interim? But I can't do speech. And I saw an ad on Craigslist for they're hiring waitresses at a restaurant out in Montauk. And I called and I was like, hey, never been a waitress before, but like I'm interested. And they like gave me the job on the spot. It was awesome. And I worked as a waitress like 6 days a week that whole summer. It was so much fun to date, probably the best job I've ever had. But while I was there, one of my like recurring patrons would always be like, "Why are you a waitress?" Like you seem really talented. And I was like, people can be talented and be a waitress, whatever. And he made the suggestion. He's like, you should go into sales. Like
Mm.
you sell me this menu every night. You're like so sociable. So I thought about it. I was thinking about doing real estate for a little bit, but then one of my friends I lived in the house with was in tech sales, and he was like, you have so many transferable skills. He really pumped me up to see my value and that my skills were transferable across other um, industries, not just healthcare. And I applied for a job that was health tech. So it was like adjacent to healthcare as an entry level sales position. I didn't know anyone there. But I felt like it was the right thing for me to do because I kind of had some experience. Went through the interview process. It was pretty grueling. Got the job. I was making like 100 dials a day as an entry level sales development representative. It was pretty taxing, but I learned the word no and I learned like, a new industry. I did that for a few months, and then my good friend, who works at the current company I'm at, who's also at this one of like a employee number like 10 at this tech company, reached out and was like, "Hey, we're hiring for SDRs. If you'd like want to sell something different," and I was like, "Hell yeah, I'll do something different." And yeah, I started there as an entry level sales person. I was there for almost a year and a half. I left to go be an account manager at a cybersecurity company working with private equity clients. So still selling. And then now I'm actually back at the first company that my friend kind of got me my foot in the door at as a client success manager, helping our clients onboard and implement the platform that we use.
So I heard two things. Number one, you took what I like to call a sidestep job, right? You took a
Mm,
sidestep job in the interim, knowing, hey, I'm just doing this to get by, right? And you were okay with that. You made the most of it, you enjoyed it, and then it became a launch pad for the next job
right.
by being
I
at
like
the
that.
restaurant, right? And having those conversations, but really being present. Because sometimes
Hmm.
when people take what I call these sidestep jobs, it it's the energy that they bring to it because it's not the job that they really want. They miss those types of opportunities to network and engage with people because you never know who knows someone or who may sow a seed of confidence into you. You just never
Right.
know what could happen there. And I think the second thing I heard you say was you leveraged your network, right? In this amazing home
Huge.
in Hampton, right?
Yeah.
But you leverage your network right there, and they were able to see the transferable skills. But you
Hmm.
also had to believe them
Yeah.
to even
Well
because you
said.
could have kept going for decades. Someone just told me, oh, I should. I've been somebody's been talking to me about starting a podcast for like years, right? And they just never wanted to do it until the right person sowed the seed of confidence, and then they said yes, right? So
Right.
that's basically you could have waited another 20 years and not done anything with that information. You chose to believe in the moment what that person saw in your skills. So I think that's incredible, and I'd really like to kind of dive into some of those skills because one of the things that we
Hmm.
do at the 5 Minute Career Hack, we help individuals see what they've done in a new light.
Yeah.
transferable skills. So I'd love to talk about like the 2 to 3 main skills that helped you land this job that you had developed through college and your experience to be able to do what you're doing now.
Yeah. Communication, number one. I think having a background, my degree literally is in communication sciences and disorders, so that was pretty like off the bat easy. Work ethic, I think, is something that people don't think about a lot, but it's definitely like you could go work in an investment bank, but also work in a hospital and have, if you have the same amount of work ethic, you're still going to get the job done because you're persistent, you have grit, you're really there to get a goal done. And I think I had that from, getting a master's degree is hard. Working in a hospital is hard. You have to really like get up and keep going. So I think persistence and work ethic blended is, one of those things. And then willingness to learn. Something I've actually talked about with one of my mentors, and I feel like I've heard you guys talk about this in the podcast as well, is like if you come to a job ready to be a sponge and absorb things and learn different things and know how you learn best, you're going to excel at a job really well because you're present, but you're also like, showing up as your best self and really hoping to get the most out of it. So I think those three things were definitely my top skills that have kind of gone back and forth between industries and helped me make the switch.
Yeah, and I think it's sometimes tough when you get. I know yours was a little bit more laser focused than a general communications degree,
Yeah,
but I think it's sometimes tough when you have these broad sweeping degree majors, if you will. So mine
yeah,
being business administration. Well, I mean, my gosh, that
yeah,
covers like everything in the world. So
yeah,
what do I do with that? But ultimately, there is still very something very simple about communication as well as business administration that is transferable in every industry,
right,
right?
right.
And so if you're out there and you're listening, you have one of those types of degrees or experience in that thing, it's transferable. So don't think of it as, well, man, if I want to go into project management or something like that, that because this communication skill will actually be very valuable. This business administration will be very valuable. It's all in how you position it. So you did
Totally.
mention, which I'd love to talk a little bit about next for those individuals that, hearing the word no and, $100 a day and those types of things, it can be intimidating for the person that hates rejection, which is like everybody on earth, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Hates
literally.
rejection. So, with that
It's
being said,
uncomfortable.
though, right, that there is it's an incredible field that a lot of people will avoid, but I want you to give the best pitch based upon what you've experienced as to why someone should get into sales, specifically tech
Oh,
sales.
I think everyone should work in a restaurant at some point in their life, and I think everyone should have a sales job at some point in their life. Life is not easy. It never has been, it never will be. But being able to know that you can handle something and that you can hear the word no and continue to pick yourself back up makes you so much more of a stronger person and so much less scared of the world because you're like, I've been told no before. I've been down bad before. I can get up again. And I think being in sales, winning a deal, there's no better feeling. And losing a deal, also, there's no worse feeling. But being able to harness your emotions through that roller coaster of the highs and lows of sales is will help you with life. I mean, I just think any disappointment you have, any hardship you can be able to be like, I can do this in a professional setting. I can do it in a life setting. So that's my pitch. I hope I'm selling someone. It's a great field to be in.
Yeah, so you definitely tugged on the heart, like the heart, like a heart emotions, if you will. Now,
Yeah.
I've got some experience there, and I know a lot of people that are in sales. Talk about the money you can make there,
Oh,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the bag.
Yeah, yeah, the fact is real. Um, I mean, your success is completely up to you in sales. So it's like there's always more work to be done. There's always another deal to close. There's always another prospect to reach out to, an opportunity to open. And I think that first commission check, I will never forget it. It's like, "Oh, this is mine." Like, and
Yeah.
there's something about having your success being completely up to you and having that check be, obviously like a prospect in a deal can say no to you and you lose the deal and that sucks. But like a lot of times if you do the right things, they'll say yes and you'll close that deal and get that commission check. So I think the reward, the monetary reward of the roller coaster of sales is the definitely a reason to do it. It's awesome.
Yeah, to me, I liken it to like drugs almost. I've never
Yes.
been on them,
Oh,
but I would imagine the high is very close.
very close. I don't know if you're into cold plunging or like ice plunging.
I want to try so bad,
Oh, it's
but it is.
awesome. I recommend it.
So I played sports in college, so we would have to do
Mhm.
ice baths, and so that memory of that, so waist, probably more. I've never done anything more than waist
Okay.
down, and it just felt like somebody was stabbing me. And it was, there was also this other element of it because more often than not, if I had to do them as a part of therapy, I
Mhm.
probably wasn't able to either play at that point in time, or
Yeah,
it was more like I'm limited in what I could do. So then there's this psychological thing. So it's, you put the two together, throw me in the tub, and I'm
it's
just
not
like, I
great.
don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Right.
I get
So
that. I get that.
so then fast forward to now where this is a whole thing,
Yeah,
right?
whole thing.
Um yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna get into it. I've been talking about it for about 2 years now, and I know the benefits, are amazing. So talk to me about this feeling though that you just described that is like
Yeah.
almost translating.
So I recently switched into I'm now in a client success manager role, so I'm not selling anymore. Like I'm doing renewals and I'm managing relationships, but I'm no longer like opening opportunities and closing them. I wanted to make that switch because I just love switching careers apparently. No, but I the highs and lows of a sales job can be really difficult, and I feel like at my last company I was getting a bit stagnant in terms of like developing sales skills, finding things to sell. And I'm getting into the cold plunge now. I started doing cold plunge, like contrast therapy, so like sauna into the
Hmm.
cold plunge, and then back. It's really good for you, Dr. Huberman. I'm sure you know him, but he
Yes,
talks a lot
yes.
about this. And I found that that high post cold plunge beats any deal closing, any like thing going your way ever. Like it literally shocks the system, and you're just like, okay, like I can do anything. And I feel like it was really instrumental in kind of making this shift career wise because it gave me a vote of confidence. Like I could still find this feeling of like satisfaction and exhilaration, but like in a healthy way, not in a like mental game of sales so
Right,
much.
right.
So I still have the highs, but
Of course.
you know,
But you're not
with
codependent.
renewals. Yeah, yeah. I'm not codependent
You
anymore.
found another outlet, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so you may have just kind of inspired me. I'm not quite ready to say yes, I'll be doing the cold plunge in 2025,
Y
but
uh,
I do
you can think
feel
about it.
it's definitely giving me some more perspective. And I'm a huge Andrew Huberman Lab fan.
Oh,
Um,
best.
can spend 8 hours watching 2 episodes
Yeah.
easily.
Taking
So
notes, like, right.
right, like a
Yeah.
rewind. And what did he just say? And what does that even mean?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I think that that is a good way to frame it up. And then for anyone that may be in sales listening, I know that could have probably helped them because they're experiencing that and they're on that roller coaster and
Yeah.
may need an outlet.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's really, really cool. My
definitely.
next and final question for you, before we kind of wrap up with the final 5 words, is what's next for you based upon all of this different experience? Like, do you see yourself staying where you are, or do you see yourself moving on to something different as well in the future?
Yeah. Great question. Happy you asked. I love my job now. I feel incredibly grateful for it. It's flexible. I get to talk to people all day long. I'm still solving problems in the way that I was seeking in like my earlier roles. And I feel like I'm at a place now where I can look at my 9 to 5 as actually my 9 to 5 and not really my identity as much. It's how I make my money. It's how I interact within the office. It gets me out into the world. And I think that's a blessing. This next chapter of my career, I am looking at it from a more holistic perspective and kind of like chasing my passions.
Mm,
As you can tell, I'm into cold plunges. I like to sauna. I'm really big on working out and meditation. So I'm actually getting my Pilates certification to become a Pilates teacher in 2025, which I am so jazzed about.
yes.
And I think in the interim, I'd like for it to be kind of like a side hustle thing that I teach on the side,
Hmm.
but I have some visions for where I'd like to take it, in years to come, and kind of building my own safe space for people to really like approach Pilates in a way that's not so like rich mommy intimidating vibes. Because I
Right.
think it's the best workout I've ever done, and it's helped me a lot too. So
Yeah, I'm so intrigued and fascinated, and they just opened up another studio maybe one exit away from where I live.
Yay.
And so, and that's been between our initial call
Yeah.
before we recorded
Yeah.
and now. And so I'm excited to check it out. So I passed
Yeah.
by and kind of peeked my head through the window to see what was happening. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to give it a test. And this is just,
Yes.
all this energy around it. So we're definitely going to have to bring you back on to kind of talk about that as that gets going for you in the future.
Yeah.
And I
For sure.
sincerely appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing this journey from healthcare to tech, especially during such a trying time as COVID in the healthcare space. So I appreciate you sharing your story. I know it influenced, helped, possibly even help someone really, really navigate what's next and think about it in a different way and what the
Yeah.
possibilities could be. So I appreciate that. So, with that being said, we like to end every podcast by asking our guests to leave our audience with their final 5 words. So, it could be 5 or less. Try not to go over 5, but just 5
Okay.
words that you want them to remember, whether that's about your journey, what you're doing now, or even what you're doing next. What do you think those final 5 words might be?
Hmm. It always gets better. That's only 4 words, I
That's
guess.
perfect.
But yeah, it always gets better. Just hang in there. It's never over. Just it always gets better.
Yeah, I love that. I always say if you're still breathing, it's still opportunity, right? So that's
Yeah.
good. It
Yeah.
always gets better. Thank you so much, Annalise, for being on the show. And we'll definitely leave a link for you guys if you want to connect with her afterwards. Just chat, talk about anything that we talked about in the podcast, or just follow what she's doing on her next side hustle business in Pilates. I'll leave that in the show notes description for you. And until next time, I love you and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jamila.